Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as Mercy Tiara, and I share scrapbooking process videos, project shares, tips and tricks, and more on my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my project life process with you for the month of May of 2022. No, 2023. So now that I got my year straight, I'm going to start with my pocket page template. This is a template that I drew out using two 12 by 12 pages. It basically represents a Becky Higgins Design A page protector, and I have a couple of extra little half ones here that I tend to use when I'm doing an insert. Now, I don't want to be too confusing. I laid those sideways up there just because I wanted to have space for them. I know I'm going to need to have an insert in this page because there's a lot of photos here. And so what I've decided to do is I'll just lay the items that will go in the insert up here on the brown pieces, and then the white pieces represent my main pages, my two 12 by 12 Becky Higgins Design A page protectors. So I will do the insert in a future video, and so you'll be able to see that. It should be in the one coming up next on my channel. But I'm looking through these photos, which I have printed at some of the standard sizes that I tend to print things at. So any large horizontal photo that I like the size of, and it's a nice enough photo or an important enough photo, I'll print it at 4x6 with borders on them. And anything that is a vertical photo that's important enough to take up space and good enough quality, I'll print it at 3x4. And those are these. And I do print it at 3x4 so that it fills the whole pocket. It doesn't have a border on it. And then any smaller photos that are less quality, that or maybe are a smaller story, or that I might not want to take up so much space, I will print at 2x3. And I also print any verticals that are smaller also at 2x3 or 3x2, I guess it ends up being. Screen grabs or screenshots, I print at 1.8 by 4 in order to get them to fit in a 3x4 pocket. So as you can see, I started by laying out all of my photos, and as you can see, there's a lot more photos than usual on this page, so I'm not going to have as much room for fillers. And as opposed to what I often do is I put out the photos, and then my next step is I come up with what cards are going to go behind and in the various pockets where cards will be showing. But I'm doing this one a little bit differently because a lot of these are going to have lift the flaps and interactive elements. And so I'm going to focus on building all of my interactive elements first, and then I will go on to designing the pages and deciding which cards go where. So my favorite way to add a flip up these days, especially if it's going to be on the right-hand side of my page where the actual openings are in the page protector, is to take one of these 6x8 pieces of patterned paper. These particular ones come from a Kelly Perky or a Paper Person kit. I just have them in my stash from a long time ago, and I tend to not use that size in scrapbooking. So those papers are a nice sturdy cardstock kind of quality, so they make really good lift the flaps. So that's what I do. I make my tents out of those, and so if it's a tent flip up that goes in a 3x4 pocket, I cut it down to 3x8, score it at the 4 point, which would be the halfway point, and then I slip it in. I'm doing something differently here, which is I've made 2 of those 3x8 inch tents that are scored at the 4-inch mark, and I'm gluing them together so that I have a double flip. So as you can see, that's how that looks. I'm going to put this photo on the outside edge. So this is the very front of that lift the flappity flap times 2. And I'm deciding what else will go in here. I know I want to do some journaling, and I know I also have several other photos to capture as well. May was the year that we started our kit. May was the month that we started our kit club. So I have lots of photos of boxes arriving and us at work in the warehouse and people reacting to the release of our kits. I have lots and lots of wonderful memories to share from early May. So I'm very excited to be able to document these, which is one of the reasons I'm going back to document May. I don't usually do pocket scrapping for months that are this far back, but a few pretty significant things happened that I didn't want to skip over in my project life. So here I am back scrapping May. It's now September. So that I basically just got the structure made for that lift the flap element because I didn't do any decorating and I didn't do any journaling or anything at this point. Now I have another fairly complicated one right here that I'm also going to do, or I guess, it could be fairly complicated. So I'm grabbing another one of those same 6x8 pieces of paper. It's actually more of a cardstock, and that's also from the Paper Person Kit Club. And I am going to put, again, my photo on the outside. It covers the entire front flap. And then I'm going to put the other photos that I have for this story. This is all stories about our international student and her birthday. And so I'm going to put those in these places. And these are easy decisions. Like I kind of know what I'm doing here. So it was pretty easy for me to do that. I'm just mentioning that when you put your photo on a tented flap like this, you just want to make sure that the photo is above the crease or below the crease and not overlapping with the crease, because then it's going to buckle when you fold it. I want that folding mechanism to work as smoothly as possible. So here I'm placing this photo just below the fold, whereas the other one was just above the fold. And this one is small enough that it's not going to come anywhere near the fold. So that looks pretty good for that flap. And I think I'm just talking about here about how I wanted to balance those two 3x4 photos. So I put them in two opposite places there. I do film live streams of, not live streams, but real-time process videos. So that's why I was kind of talking with my hands there to the folks on Patreon who will see the non-fast forwarded, unedited, real-time version of this video. So because it's real time, they have, there's more space for me to talk in more detail in those ones. So another lift the flap. As I mentioned, there's a lot of interactive elements. So I'm taking this little piece of pattern paper. Again, it's that 6x8. I cut it down to 3x8, scored it at 4. And for this one, I really like that patterned paper that's showing up in the background. And so I'm trimming my photo down a little bit so that you'll see a little bit of that patterned paper in the background. And I really like that matted look. So that will be the front of this lift the flap. And then the second photo will go on the bottom part. And because these Paper Person patterned papers have these beautiful lined papers on the back, it gives me a built-in opportunity for journaling without having to figure out what my other journaling options will be. So now I have this other group of photos that documents the release of a Zelda game that I was looking forward to for a long time that released in May. And so I have several photos here as well. And because this card was supposed to land on the left-hand side of my spread, there are no openings in the pockets on that side of the page protector. So I was thinking about using one of these lift the flaps. They're called photo flips. They're plastic little page protectors that have an adhesive strip on them that you can adhere them to the outsides of your pocket pages, or any page really. And so my first thought was that I would include one of those like this, and you can see me I went into my stash and I grabbed a little data card. It's basically an empty card. I can't even remember the brand of it. Could be Paper Person, but it is basically, I have a series of cards that say like documenting, reading, texting, emailing, all of those things on it. And so there they are right there. And I'm just looking for ones that are relevant to the stories that I'm trying to tell. And what I've actually decided is that because I have so many things to document about this one story, and I don't want it to take up a whole lot of real estate on my project, I'm deciding to put it over here on the right-hand side instead of over on the left-hand side where I was expecting it to go. And I'm going to do something different because there's already a lot of flaps on that page. You just saw me make 3 of them. And so I don't necessarily want a 4th flap to be there. So I'm going to make these be pull out elements. And so I just went over to my stash and grabbed my tabbed punch. This is a different tabbed punch than the one that I usually use, but it is still a Stampin' Up! Tabbed punch. It's called Circle Tab. And I'm going to punch two of them. And then when I see how they look together, I realize that I first of all, I have enough photos and stories to tell, and I think it would look better with three of them. So I'm going to punch another one. That means I have to go back to my stash of cards. This is just my stash of Project Life cards that I keep off to my right-hand side. And I'm going to find another card that will match with the story that I'm telling. So the cards that I have, they have strips at the bottom that match one another. One of them says binging, one of them says downloading, and I can't remember what the other one said because I ended up covering it up, so I can't see it right now. I'm going to, yeah, there I am, just covering it up because it wasn't really relevant. And when I put that tab on, it was going to cover part of the word anyways. So I'll just have that one be blank. That's fine. Downloading because I did download the game on the day that the day before it released so that I could have it all loaded up and ready to play when it did release. And I have a photo of the collector's edition of the game, as well as a photo of my TV screen with the game on it. And then I also have a photo of some of the reviews, like a summary of everybody's review of the game. It was very critically acclaimed and universally loved by most of the reviewers, so I wanted to kind of capture that. Now that photo was taken at a wonky angle, so I'm just straightening it out so that it's not a trapezoid on my page because that just looked a little weird. So I'm putting basically the cover of the collection edition of the game, and then I'm just cutting down this so that only the important parts are there. I don't need the header and footer of my screenshot. And then this one I've already trimmed down and adhered. Now I want to use my ginormous roller date stamp. This is from Studio Calico. I love every time I get an opportunity to use this, but it is very hard on your skin. Those little circles are very hard to turn. And so I just always use a little cloth that I keep in my scrap room for wiping up stuff. I just use that to turn the dials so that I can get it to the right date. Now, it was May 12th, 2023 that Tears of the Kingdom released. So I turned it to that, and I could tell right away that the ink was beading up on this stamp, and I'm not loving how it's turning out. So I'm going to run my eraser over it to try to condition it. You don't usually have to condition rubber stamps like this, but sometimes, I don't know, it's just not taking the ink properly, and the more I do it, the more unhappy I am with it. So I thought, well, let's try using like the oil from my fingers. It's still beading up. So I know that my VersaFine Black Onyx ink is it's a little bit like a hybrid ink. It's thicker than a regular ink and stickier. And so I thought that might get me better coverage on the stamp, and I was right. So I did still want it to be gray. So I off-stamped it first and used the second generation of stamping from that VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and that's how I got my date stamped there. Now, the back sides of these cards that I had in my stash conveniently have a really cute little and very, very subtle grid pattern on them. So I didn't have to figure out how to do my journaling. I just journaled right on the back of it, and it was easy to make that straight. My journaling here says, because I'm a relatively new gamer, I never eagerly awaited the release of a new game until now. It was fun to see the trailers and announcements and speculate and even dream about the sequel to my beloved Breath of the Wild. So that was on the first card. And now I have to think about what am I going to do with this second card. And so I've got the tab and I've got the photo on it, but I just want to add a little something to it. So I have a category of stamps called technology and leisure, and it includes like books and games and board games and video games and like FaceTime technology type stuff. It's mostly books and games. So I'm pulling out any of my gaming, either video games or board games, and even a few book stamp sets have some sentiments that might be relevant. So this gamer stamp is perfect. Obviously, it even has a switch on it. And then this one has game and video game. And then there's a little tiny controller on this stamp from Lawn Fawn. And this one has game night and a few gaming related ones. This is a book one, but it does have a part that's kind of specific to reviews, and one of the things I'm documenting here are some of the reviews. So I took that out too. So I'm just looking through these, trying to decide what sentiments I want to put on here. And I'm picking from, this is actually a book set, and it is from Paper Person. And I'm choosing the one that says a favorite series. And then from the gamer one, I'm choosing the one that says Gamer Girl. And for ink, what I'm thinking about doing is going with a blue, like a Hylian blue from the clothing that Link wears in this series of Zelda games. So I chose, there were actually two blues, and I ended up choosing the lighter one that is not as true to the franchise, but I just liked it better. So I went with the lighter blue, which is Balmy Blue from Stampin' Up. And I am conditioning this second one because I haven't used it before. So I'm just rubbing my eraser very, very gently. You don't want to get eraser gobs on it, but just very gently to remove the manufacturer's kind of coating that's on those. And I really like how that turned out. So I'll do some more journaling on the back side. It says, because we were in the DR, Dominican Republic, when the collector's edition released for pre-sale, I did not get it pre-ordered. And then I put a little sad face. However, Robin, Adam's sister, offered to try to pick one up for me. And surprisingly, she was able to nab one for me. So I was very, very, very lucky to get the collector's edition because it was long sold out by the time I got back from the Dominican Republic. I knew that something was happening while I was down there, but I thought, oh, I've seen the trailers and I'll see it when I get back. I'm sure I won't be missing anything. And then I was kind of upset when I realized when I got back that they actually put these things up for pre-sale at that particular announcement. But anyhow, I got one, so I'm really happy about that. Very, very, very grateful to I guess she's my sister-in-law. She's my brother-in-law's sister. So for this one, this is another stamp that comes from a book set. This is from Ellie's studio. And it has a place for the title and then the number of stars. So I inked it with a new ink. It's called Azure Afternoons, and it's from Stampin' Up. And then I'm coloring it in with the Balmy Blue marker. So that's the first ink that I did on the other one. I'm writing in the title that says, basically it says, Tears of the Kingdom. And so it's getting 5 stars from me, of course. And I'm also going to put this Love This stamp with a little heart on it. That's also from the book set. And I'm stamping it in orange to kind of go along with the coloration of the game. There's lots of orangey, yellowy, golden colors, especially early in the game. So I'm having one last look through my supplies here because my final detail for these cards is I want to put something on these tabs. I'm going to put the exact same thing. It's a little mini version of a game controller, and that is from a Game Night stamp set from Ellie's studio. No, it's from Studio Calico by the look of it. Sorry about that. Got that wrong. So all of these cards fit together, and then they fit inside of one of just the regular pockets on that side of the spread. So in this whole video, you will see that I'm focusing on the left-hand side, which is not usually the way I do it. I usually do the right-hand side first. So now that I have the structure all figured out for this side of the page and for the overall spread, I can now go back and start actually decorating some of these things that I've already started. So the structure's there. So here is that top lift the flap page. So this is a 4x6 card with a flap, and I want to spell out Annabelle turns 16, and I'm just going into my stash for this, and these are some letter stickers that might have been from Ali Edwards or Studio Calico from maybe a year ago or so. These were I think they were part of a Christmas themed kit. And so I realized that I was going to call this Annabelle's birthday, but I didn't have room for the S, the apostrophe and the S. So I'm going to call it Annabelle Turns 16 instead. And I really love those brown letter stickers, even though they're supposed to have that gingerbread feel. I find that when you use them on a non-holiday layout, they just look like a funky brown alphabet. I really like how they look. So these are some old October afternoon sticky keys. And these are one of my all-time favorite letter stickers. So I just wrote turns. And again, that's just for my stash. And I am going to be dipping into the outdoorsy kit. That's the Mercy Tiara kits set of kits for August of 2023. But right now what I'm doing is I'm actually leafing through my supplies looking for a set of letters that includes numbers. And I chose these mostly because I was tired of looking. So I found these and they had numbers, and they're from Pink Fresh Studio and they're really cute. And they pick up on the blue that is in the letters for the word turns. Now here's where I'm pulling in some items from the outdoorsy kit. I have these frames and tags from Cartabella. They came in the main kit, and this is perfect. It says, "Oh, happy day." And I thought that die cut just fills that space perfectly and provides a little bit of balance. So now that flip the flap is all completely done. So we're moving on to the second flip the flap, which is on the next level. It's one of the 3x4s that I made earlier in this same video. And so I'm going to start by misspelling the word tattoo, but I'll get it. I'll fix it. Don't worry. There's something about spelling things out with letter stickers that sometimes my brain misses typos. That for some reason my brain didn't catch that. It wasn't until I actually wrote the word tattoo without thinking that I realized, wait a minute, there are of course 2 T's. Well, there's 3 T's altogether. So my journaling here says, Liv and Soph had been waiting months to get their matching sister tattoos. That's where I realized I misspelled the word. So I'm going to shift these over and make a little bit of room for the extra T. So these rubber letter stickers are super easy to move around. They are still sticky, like I've never had them pop off or anything, but they definitely are very forgiving and you can move them around. So back to my journaling, it said their sister matching tattoos of a sun and a moon. I finally took them to Adept to get them done. It was Sophie's first and she did great, already planning their next. Which probably won't be anytime soon because it's not something that we take lightly. We want to make sure our kids are very thoughtful about something so permanent. So anyhow, there's that one. Once they turned 16, we allowed them to make their own decision about that as long as it was small. It had to be small. That was our requirement. Here's this more elaborate lift the flap thing that I have going on here. And I wanted to put our branding sticker on there. We have these really cute vinyl stickers. And I don't want it to be all by itself floating on the page. I want it to be anchored with a label sticker that will also hold a little sentiment. So I layered it with this black October afternoon label sticker from my stash. And I'm just going to put working hard on here. It's a picture of Scott and I in the warehouse. So I was going to just get started on my journaling, which is easy to do on that already lined piece of paper from the back of that Kelly Perky paper that I used for the whole piece. But then I got distracted by that photo and thought, I think I want to actually decorate this photo a little bit. So I just went into my own sticker stash and grabbed a few relevant sticker sheets that I thought might have some good pickings for embellishing this story, both in terms of color as well as some of the sentiments. So I'm picking this Pink Fresh Studio chipboard sticker that says, "Let your dreams grow," because that's what this kit club is for me and for us. It's a dream come true. And then this other sticker set had these orange stars, and I thought that was good because I always find that stars make a layout or a card feel a little bit more energized. So those worked really well, and they work with the color scheme, and they're part of our branding color as well with the orange. So my journaling here says, starting a kit club has been a long time dream of mine, but I knew I didn't have the business or organization skills to start another new business on my own. Luckily, Scott was looking for a new project and convinced me, and that was pretty easy, to jump in and get started. So next I have this page that has a screenshot of a story from one of our subscribers and one of our customers who is like super involved in our community and always brightens our day when she posts her projects using our kits. And she's always one of the very first, if not the very first, to buy our kit when it releases. So we love her. And I wanted to include some of the community's response to our kits. And so I really wanted to include hers. And I just added a little circle label, added some lines, and it says, "It's so fun to see others as excited about our kits. We love this." And then that last photo of the post office, I didn't add anything to. Now, the photo right next to this one is of my watch showing me a notification for our very first order ever. And so I took a photo of it because I knew that I'd want to scrapbook it because I'm a scrapbooker. So I took another circle label sticker from my stash. These are my Studio Calico stickers that are a weird shape that I never think of because they're a weird shape, so I have to store them differently. But I remembered them and grabbed one that's yellow, and it says, "First order ever, so exciting." I just trimmed off the edge of it there, so it's kind of going off the page. I like to do that. Now I'm noticing that these two photos are very similar to one another, but they're too close together. So I'm just going to switch up my photos a little bit so that those two are spread out on the page. And that leaves me with a couple of things that I still have to do. So it looks like I'm packing up and putting it away for now. I had a bit of other work to do, but I did come back later on in the same day, and I'm going to pick up where I left off right here. And so I'm picking a couple of these 4x6 pockets. So there are two 4x6 photos there that will fill most of those pockets. But then I have a little 2x3 photo here of Scott and Adam, and I need to do something with that. So this is a scrap from the Outdoorsy kit. I'm just using it to mat my photo in this beautiful orange patterned paper from Simple Stories. Love that paper. And I also really love this paper, and I didn't get much of a chance to use the back side of it because I adore the other side so much, but I was really hoping I'd get a chance to use this wood grain. I love an illustrated wood grain pattern like that, so I jumped at the opportunity to use it on this card. So I'm just showing a little bit more of my process here, which includes how I store my scrapbooking stamps. So what I'm doing here is I am just picking out any stamps that I think might be good for documenting a friendship. And so I'm going into my relationships category, and I pulled out a couple of stamps, and also my documenting category. I have a specific category that's about officey / documenting type of things. It includes things like frames and bulletin board pens and like squares that say document and capturing these moments and those sorts of things. So I grabbed 4 stamp sets there that I thought might be relevant, including one foodie stamp because this was taken at our favorite brewery. So I'm starting with this, which is a box from the Scraptastic Kit Club. This is a box stamp set, and it's from that stamp set there that says document and details and all that. And I've never actually used this stamp before, but I think it's going to make a really good layering piece that will go along with the photo, and it'll kind of like layer underneath and behind the photo. Now, I don't want those lines to show, so I'm masking it off with washi tape because I know that some of this is going to be covered by the photo, so I don't actually need to mask the whole thing. And then I inked it in this beautiful sage green. It's called Lost Lagoon from Stampin' Up. It's one of their newer colors. And so some of that will be covered by the photo, but then I also wanted to use this stamp, and this is from the stamp set by Studio Calico. I believe it was called Social Hour. It was for one of their kits. And I really, really love this stamp. It says, "Good friends, great adventures." And I'm just testing it here because I wasn't sure how that blue would turn out. It's a Stampin' Up! Blue called Misty Moonlight. And so as you can see, I just stamped it there inside of the box, and then the photo kind of covers up those lines that look weird because I knew that the photo would cover them up, so I didn't bother masking them. And now I'm just going to take my scissors and cut all the way around this. This is just a piece of plain white paper. It might be Nina Solar White. I don't know, it was just something I had on hand. And I'm going to layer these two so that it looks like, that's just a die cut there, basically. It's like a handmade die cut. I'll put the whole thing down in the center of this card, and the whole thing looks like it's a little bit overwhelmed by that green background paper. It just seems like it's kind of a lot and also not enough at the same time. So I decided that it needed a touch of color on the outside edges. So I'm going to cut a piece of this pattern paper from the Outdoorsy kit, and I cut it to 4x6, and then I'll cut this down a little bit on all four sides because it's already centered. So I want to cut it evenly. So see how that just brightens up this card a little bit, where it's such a dark green. This just adds some color, and some of the colors are similar to the colors that are already showing up, like the orange that I used the matting with, and there's some blues in there as well to pick up on the blue and the stamping. So I really like how this card turned out, and it's a fairly simple, easy card with just some stamping and layering, and it's all good. So now I have these two cards that will fill 4x6 pockets, and the photos themselves will do most of the work for me, but I do want to embellish both of these photos just a little tiny bit. So I'm going back into my stamp sets. I'm looking at my home category, and within the home category I have these stamps, but this one that says cozy on it is especially speaking to me. And at first I thought I'd use the actual word cozy, but then I noticed this little phrase. It says, there is nothing like staying home for real comfort. And it shows the cat on Liv's bed. She was doing her laundry and had the duvet cover removed, so everything is all white, and the cat herself is white and gray, and Liv's bedroom walls are gray, so everything is kind of like white and gray. So I decided to stamp it in black to just stay with that monochromatic look without any colors. And I stamped that using my VersaFine Black Onyx ink, and it came out really well. Not super, super dark. I think that I would have had to have used my Misty tool to get it super dark. Then that same stamp set had a little cat all curled up, and I couldn't resist adding that beneath the sentiment. And there we go. This one is done. So that one goes right there. I keep pulling this down just to remind myself of how the page is looking as it comes together. And now for this one, I'm thinking I want to add something with a homey kind of sentiment, because this is the three girls, our international student and our two daughters, hanging out on the back porch together, like on the back deck together. And what I'm going to decide to take is this stamp set from one of these home stamp sets from the Paper Person. And it says good memories from this spot, and it's a nice rectangular kind of an image with an arrow below it. And I thought that it would work really, really well on one of these labels from Studio Calico. The only thing is that the label is way, way bigger, way more wide than the sentiment. So watch what I'm going to do to customize this label. I do this all the time, but if you haven't done this before, see me do it. It's worth watching, because this is a really great way to customize a label sticker. So all that I'm doing here is I've stamped my sentiment, and now I'm going to cut it straight down along the edge, a little bit smaller than I need it to be. And then I'm realigning it. I believe I'm going to zoom in here. Yeah. So I'm aligning it so that the lines on the inside and outside of that label, there's like a thin little line and then a thicker line, so that they're all lined up. So basically, once it's on there, it looks like it is the exact perfect size for that sentiment. And like I said, I do that all the time, and I really love customizing my labels in that way. I forgot to do my journaling here, so I'm just coming back to it. The journaling here says, unsurprisingly, TOTK was rated 10 out of 10 by most gaming experts. Breath of the Wild was also almost unanimously rated as the best game that year, and Tears of the Kingdom just builds upon that. I'm loving it so far. So I wanted to include a little bit of information about the fact that it was kind of critically acclaimed, but also I wanted to mention that I also am really enjoying it. I'm no gaming expert, but I certainly am loving the game. So now I am moving on to the left-hand side. So this is the side that does not have the openings in the pockets. And so this one has pretty much no flips. Yep, no flips. So I'm actually going to move the other piece completely out of my way because it is completely done and it just gives me more space to work on here. So I have the back side of that card that I had already cut for something else. And so I had this 4x6 piece already here. And I really love how these wavy colors kind of spread across that 4x6. So I'm going to design these two cards that are side by side at the same time. The one with the wavy colors is going to be my title card, and I'm going to want to put the date on it. But this one, I thought I would, while I have it down here, and I had an idea. I really love doing my journaling along the edges of the plates of food. This is something that Kelly Perky does a lot, or did a lot. And I picked up on that, and I've been doing it for many, many years now. I just love it. I also really love stamping along the edges of things on my pages. And so I have this stamp set. It's a Kelly Perky stamp set. It says, "I ate this." And I just love it. And so I decided to stamp it right along the edge of the bottom of the hamburger bun. And yeah, this is just a meal we had. It was just some random, it wasn't all that important, so I don't have anything really to say about it. But this is what I love about Project Life, is that you can document these little moments that don't really mean too much. You don't have to say too much about it, but it's still a little slice of your life from that point in time, right? So now that I've got that done, and that's all I had to do is just add that little stamp, now I'm going to stamp on this background paper basically I'm going to say May of 2023 because this year I'm not doing my pocket pages weekly like I did last year and some of the other years. I'm doing it monthly, but it's not like a monthly recap or overall. It's still like a nitty-gritty details documentation of some of the things that happened in the month of May. It just won't be all of the things that happened in the month of May. So I'm using this Kelly Perky stamp set that has the months on it, and I'm pretty sure that came with a kit. It doesn't have a name written on it, so I can't tell you what name it was, but it came with one of the kits last year. And then I also have this Ellie's Studio stamp set that has a bunch of months and it also has a couple of years. And so I'm stamping out 2023 to go in that little space. I stamped it a little bit lower than I was intending to. I wanted it to be kind of centered with the A, and it actually looks a little bit like it's sitting on the A, and I kind of like that. It looks pretty good. And I stamped it in a coral color from Stampin' Up. It's called Calypso Coral. So that's all good and fine, but it's a little plain. And so I thought this is a really great opportunity to use some things in my stash. I've got all these little special things to put onto things. And so I thought this was a really great opportunity to use some of these little acetate pieces from my stash. These are most likely from Studio Calico, from some kit from the past couple of years. And so I just placed them randomly around my card, and my first thought was that I would glue them in place, but they are see-through and I don't necessarily want to have glue showing. So I took a picture because I knew that they might move around when I try to staple them. I'm going to make all my staples go horizontal. This is the thing that I like, but you might not be like this, and it's okay if you're not. But I like my staples to all point in the same direction when I do a page. It's just a weird little quirk that I have. And so I'm going to be making these all be horizontal. And luckily, the tiny attacher will reach anywhere on a 4x6 card from one direction or the other. If it didn't, I do have a little technique for opening up my tiny attacher and using it in the center of a page. I do have a video somewhere on my channel about how to do that. It's very old and I don't know how to find it quickly. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing that, I could even re-record that because it's super easy and quick. It might even be in one of my recent process videos, just included in the video. So as you can see, I just made some of those so that they extended off the edge of the card, and that just adds a little bit of interest to that otherwise pretty plain card. So I'm arranging what's left here in a way that balances out all of the photos as well as some of the colors. I have this photo that has strange coloring because it was in our rec room with weird lighting, but it's a picture of Annabelle's birthday. This was her friend birthday get together, as opposed to some of the other pictures were from our family birthday get together. Most of our family members end up having two birthday celebrations, one with their friends and one with our family. So I stapled another one of those acetate stars, this time a star, not an asterisk, because I run out of the asterisks, just to add a little something to that page. And it also picks up on the color because it's purple. Now, for this card, what I thought I would do is document this Mother's Day dinner. It's like a group photo of all of us at the restaurant that the waiter took. And I'm going to put the whole thing on this 4x6 card. This is a piece of paper from the Outdoorsy kit, and I love using gingham for anything to do with foods or restaurants because it looks a little bit like a tablecloth, even though this restaurant doesn't have tablecloths. So I grabbed this die cut that also came in the Outdoorsy kit, and it's a journaling die cut, and I'm writing Mother's Day gathering at Nook and Cranny Truro. Great times, great food. Little did we know we would find ourselves back in Truro only a few days later under very terrible circumstances. But this is the weird thing about going back and doing Project Life after the fact is it's like, oh, me and May didn't know any of the things that would happen in late May and early June, the horrible things that would happen. So I kind of like look at her, me in those photos, and I think, oh, she was naive to all that. Like she didn't know what was coming. Oh, and if she did, I don't know. I mean, it's good. It's good that I didn't know, right? But anyhow, yeah, our community had a horrible tragedy with wildfires, and lots of people lost their homes. We were lucky that we did not, but yeah, it was pretty traumatic. So I took another stamp from that Social Hour stamp set from Studio Calico. This one says group photo, and it has a camera in the middle of it, and I thought it was perfect for this photo. I decided to stamp it on craft cardstock. Whenever I'm in doubt about which color cardstock I should use for my stamping, craft almost always ends up being the one that I go with. So when in doubt, pick craft. My 1-inch circle punch fits that stamp absolutely perfectly. I love that. We've been designing our stamps in ways with those sorts of things in mind. So that wasn't one of our stamps, but we're designing our stamps so that they will work with your standard punches and whatnot as well. So I really love how that looks. I would have liked to have put that circle in the bottom left-hand corner of the photo, but it was too close to the other circle. So that's why I put it up in the top there. Now, this photo is not a great photo, but it is kind of like another one of those slice of life moments that I wanted to make sure that I documented. So I took my stencil here for journaling, and I didn't like how that looked at all I was trying to space out my journaling lines, and I didn't like that. I also didn't like it when I added them into the in-between lines, so then I just made it a little bit bigger. I still don't love it, but once the journaling is on it, I'll like it more. I'm writing right on the photo here. It says, this is the entrance to Otis and Clementine. Sophie opens the store on Sundays. Seamus, the store cat, is waiting for her at the door. They have books and coffee, and they also foster cats, and they have a store cat as well, which is Seamus. Pardon me. And in August or September, I can't remember which, I'll be documenting our new kitten that came from that shop. So I'm going to mat this photo of our design team announcement, and I matted it with the craft because it was already on hand, and when in doubt, choose craft. So that's what I did. And I grabbed that bee pattern paper from the Outdoorsy kit. I love that pattern paper. I'm so happy to get a chance to use it. So I'm just putting it there, and that's all I have to say. It already says design team on it. Now, this is a photo of me in the car, and I only included it because I just really liked it. It was a nice picture of me. I like my facial expression. I don't yet have scars on my nose from the dog attack that would happen in August. Yeah, my life is full of lots of horrible things these days. But so anyhow, I just really like this photo, so I decided to put it in here. I added that label, and it says Mercy Tiara kits on their way to the post office. And now I have one space here for a filler card, so I would have rathered use a piece that was already cut, but I already used all those patterns and I didn't want to repeat, so I grabbed another piece from the Outdoorsy kit. I have lots and lots of leftovers. I still have more layouts I could make with this, but I'm using it for Project Life at this point. And I just grabbed a embellishment from my stash. Whenever I have a filler card, it's always a great opportunity to use one of these larger, oversized embellishments that might be hard to use otherwise. I'm being a little bit nitpicky here because that rubber embellishment has been in my stash for a while, and it's been overlapping with other rubber embellishments, and sometimes they transfer colors. That's the only problem with rubber embellishments, is sometimes that when they touch each other, they stain. You really can't see it, so I didn't really need to be that cautious about it. So this one is done. Before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks do help make this channel happen, so great big thanks to them. And here are the photos. I do have an insert for this page that includes the evacuation of my family from our home for 6 days. And I'm including that in between these two pages. And so that will be the next video on my channel. It should be fairly short because that one came together fairly quickly. So I know this one was a little bit long. It had a lot of interactive elements to it, so that's why it took a little bit longer. But thank you for sticking with me all this way. If you did reach this far, please leave me a comment that says I made it to the end, because I love knowing who sticks around for these longer ones. I know that they have their audience, and there are others who really don't like the long ones. So give me a shout out if you made it this far. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a really great scrappy week, and I will see you very soon. In fact, I think I'll upload these two together, so you can probably go directly to my channel and watch the next one, and that will show you the inserts. Thanks for watching, and have a really great scrappy week.